Welcome to Yoga Biz Camp with myself, Michael J. I'm a yoga business coach with 25 plus years of experience as a creative, a total tech geek, and a yoga business owner. Welcome to another episode of Yoga Biz Camp. I am super excited. I have the amazing John Motz with me. He's the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Fitness and Integrative Health at Mindbody Online. So I want to thank you, John, for being here with me today.
Awesome. I don't know how amazing I am, but I'll try to live up to that.
I'll get to that. I'll tell you how amazing you are. I'm just going to read your bio, John, and then we'll go from there. So John joined the Mindbody team in 2020. He's a technology-savvy leader with significant experience in SMB and Enterprise SaaS software. His management philosophy includes utilizing creativity to design strategies and execute solutions that create products and services customers love. During his time at Intuit and ADP, John developed valuable experience managing global product development teams and collaborated with large local field sales teams and global channel sales organizations. As a product leader, John's passion is to empower teams to make fast decisions based on customer and market behavior. Part of his DNA includes ensuring his teams have a learning mindset and encouraged to fail and learn fast. I want to come back to that in a little bit, but yeah. So thank you again, John, for being here. Can you give me a little bit of a, I read there that you're with Intuit and ADP. So can you sort of tell me a brief sort of what led you to Mindbody? How did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, it's interesting because you generally don't end up where you think you're going to end up and where you're starting, and it's really easy to look back. I think for me, interestingly enough, I was a chemical engineering major in college, and I learned really, really quickly I did not want to be a chemical engineer, and so I took a break and went out to find myself and spent a lot of time in sales and learning the sales side of the world in fintech. With Intuit, I got a really unique opportunity to jump back into engineering, and take that as a 7-year path to get there. And technology had dramatically changed, engineering had dramatically changed since I had been around it in college, and I fell in love with the engineering side of things. It's really interesting to understand the nuts and the bolts of how something works and then see it come to life. And that's kind of what got me hooked on it. I was really fortunate at Intuit to be in a place where they shifted me between product and engineering almost every couple of years, which is why I was there for 14 years. And so I had great mentors. Probably the best thing I had was one of the best leadership teams I've ever worked with, who gave me opportunities to fail. Sometimes they were hard on me, but I made some pretty big mistakes along the way. But that was the path. And, I left Intuit. It was one of those kind of bittersweet decisions where I wanted another challenge. I wanted something that was going to push me and be hard. And I was getting a little comfortable into it. Frankly, it's an easy place to get comfortable. It's just a fantastic place. And I went after ADP, which was, I want to say it was 40x relative size. Customer base was 650,000. Portfolio, just my portfolio was over 7 billion from a product portfolio. And I wanted to tackle that. The other thing that ADP offered was the opportunity to drive change. ADP wasn't known as an innovative payroll company. They were the leader for sure. They were dominant, but it was one of those things. I remember sitting down with the president during the interview, and I was like, "What's your biggest fear?" And he's like, "That we're not changing fast enough, and we need to change." And he's like, "I see businesses failing. Businesses you never thought would fail are failing because things are moving faster than they ever moved before, and I need to move it faster." And so that was super fun, Michael. we took experiences that had been around for 50, 60 years and reimagined them for a base of 650,000 customers worldwide. And again, got to learn and fail fast in that experience. It was hard. It was excruciating. And I walked away from that experience after having a lot of success and feeling really good about the team we put together. And I decided my next thing had to be something that had a more, frankly, emotional connection that would have an impact on the world, would have a real impact on people beyond just building software that made their work easy and fun to do. And so when Mindbody came along, it felt like a massive opportunity to do something greater than just building software and really impacting people's lives, which for me is probably the most important thing right now. You know, I'm going to be 50 in 2 years, and I'm on the second, probably the last 25% of my career. And I wanted to spend it doing good, just to be blunt.
I know a whole bunch of your coworkers, obviously at Mindbody, and I think they have a lot of respect for you, but I think you also it seems that you go a long way to create relationships with them and, have a true connection with them. That's something I notice about you. Would you say that is fair assessment?
It's the number one way I work. You have to, as a leader, your number one quality is empathy. And that, whether that's with the customer, with the employee, it really is understanding who you're spending time with every single day, what drives them. It's an incredibly insane time right now. Keep in mind, I started with Mindbody 2 months before COVID.
Yeah.
I was literally 2 months in when the pandemic hit. And you want to talk about a challenging time for everybody. Yeah. But the employees, oh my gosh, trying to build a relationship remote as a new leader in a situation where nobody knows what's going on or what's going to happen next. If you don't come together and have that relationship, it's going to fall apart. Even more so now, right? Even more important now. Critical piece of it.
Yeah. The other thing that, from my point of view and my experience working with you, a lot of people on my podcast know that I'm a Mindbody certified consultant, but I'm also in the Champs program. And what some days I go, oh, Mindbody, you have those feelings of like, oh, things are not going the way I want it to go. And when I'm feeling like that, we have a monthly call and you sit there and take it. We all come on there. Some months it's easier than other months, but you just sit there and we slam our questions at you and why is Mindbody doing this, and you sit there and you listen and you respond. And so what I appreciate, I always come out of that feeling a lot better about Mindbody afterwards, because there's a true transparency there that you're listening to, and imagine you're listening to the customers, and but that's what my experience working with you as a champ and a consultant is, that you are there listening.
It's an important piece. The thing, and I remember one of my mentors, and I was new in product, and we just met with a customer group. I think it was about 150 customers for a couple of days. And I had all these notes, and I had these 100 things. I said, okay, we have to go do these 100 things. I'll get back and I'll update the roadmap and I'll do all this fun stuff. And she stopped me and she was like, wait a minute. She's like, did you listen? I was like, yeah, no, look, I have all these notes. I've written down everything they said. No, but did you listen? Did you really listen? Because what you jotted down were the things they said they wanted. Your job is to understand their needs better than they do and build the software and the product that's going to change how they think about how they do the job. And that was kind of the gear that turned for me was, oh, I've been looking at this through the wrong lens. And when you do that, Michael, it's kind of magical, because you're on those calls, right? It's can it do this? Can it do that? When will it do this? And my typical answer is, oh, so why do you need it to do that?
Yeah.
I generally don't answer. I generally ask another question. And for me, that's just getting to the root problem, because we really should, as Mindbody, as any software company that's solving problems, we should understand the problems better than you, the customer. That's why you're coming to us, to solve the problem. It's not about just getting solutions from customers. And so it's a really important aspect of building great product, without a doubt. Hard to do. It's really hard to do.
Yeah. I'm curious, how do you do that? I'm really curious about this, because you're in a big position with a big company that's international. And so there's a lot of pieces coming in. You have a lot of people working under you, a lot of teams and what have you. So how does that information come to you? And then what do you do with it? How do you deal with it?
So we have a incredible research in UX and design group at Mindbody. It's one of the first things I noticed when I got here. For the size of our company and our business, we've invested heavily in those areas. And what that gets us is great customer intuition that comes through those pipelines. What you have to then do, and they're fantastic at it. So I do it. I do it when I talk to customers. They do it every day. It's their day job. And the simple way to describe it is the 5 whys. And so when they're going through concepts and talking to customers, they just ask again, but why? Why do you need the report? Because I need to understand what my schedule looks like for tomorrow. Why do you need to understand what your schedule looks like? Because I need to know if I'm a shorter person. Well, what happens if you're a shorter person? I have to cancel appointments. What happens if you cancel appointments? I lose money. Oh, so you're trying to prevent loss. That's what you're trying to do. Yeah. And that gets us to a point where they don't really want the thing they think they want. It's just the way they know to solve the problem they have today.
Yeah.
And when you do that, and you have a team of people that do that all the time, and it's in their DNA, what I get from that team is not a list of features to go build. Yeah. What I get is a list of problems to go solve.
Okay.
And then it becomes really easy for the teams, because there is no feature. It's just, hey, they need to make sure they're fully staffed for their calendar the next day. Yeah. How can we do that for them? And it turns into frankly, it's easier to solve once you get to that point.
Was that always the way at Mindbody, or is that something you bring to the table?
It's hard for me to look back and talk about how Mindbody was before I got here, because it's all anecdotal. It's all, fireside chat and coffee chat type of conversation. So I don't want to necessarily look back and say how they were doing things. Things were different. I mean, at the end of the day, building software evolved. And one of the challenges you have when you're a 20-year-old successful company like Mindbody, or any other company like that, you have to be committed to the history. And decisions you make even 10 years ago, heck, even 5 years ago in technology, sometimes become irrelevant and frankly, much faster than they used to. So I don't tend to look back. I would say the thing that I have brought, though, is the customer empathy. And it's not that we didn't have it. It's not that our research teams weren't doing it. For me, though, that's at the developer level. It's at the product manager level, where we're having our development teams meet with customers and understand the customer problems firsthand, which I don't believe they were doing before. So if there's one thing I could call out, I think that would be the big one. We've been doing user research and engagement with customers as long. I mean, that's how Rick started the business, right? So we've been doing it in some shape or form since day one. But it's evolved. There's better tools, and yeah, I'm sure I brought some methodologies to the table to enhance it for sure. And frankly, Michael, we'll evolve it. Like, we're going to evolve. It's nothing's ever a perfect fit, and you gotta kind of land the plane in your segment and your base and understand what works and what doesn't work, and kind of fine tune it.
So what do you feel your area of expertise is that you bring to the table? There's the empathy.
So there's a really interesting book out there that if you haven't read it, you should read it. It's called Range.
Okay.
And it's a book. It goes into details around the difference between a specialist and a generalist. And the author has a perspective that generalists are going to rule the world. So I'm naturally a generalist. Like I've done sales, I've done engineering, I've done products, I've done business development, mergers, acquisitions, you name it. I've raised capital. Yeah. And so I think my superpower is being a generalist. I can go deep if I need to, but I spend most of my time going really, really wide, and empower the teams below me to go deep when they need to go deep. And when you're a generalist perspective, you can see the impact of A, B, and C on E, F, and G, where sometimes the teams can't see that. They're very focused in their vertical. And it's a hard thing to do. Like expecting the team to be able to go broad and understand every impact across an enterprise business like ours is just not fair to the team. So I think that's where I bring most of the values. I can do that.
Yeah. And do you think you got a lot of that from your background? Because what you didn't tell me as well was that you didn't mention before here, but you actually were very young and started your own businesses and sold businesses.
Yeah.
Right? So we've kind of been through what a lot of yoga studios sort of have go through, that's having
I built a building and marketed services in a new neighborhood, in a new town, and community outreach. Yeah. And, I tell everybody, whether they're a product manager or an engineer, everybody should spend 1.5 to 2 years doing sales.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely. One of my first jobs, I was trained as a graphic designer originally, and I ended up, when I first moved to Canada, working in a graphics store. Like a graphic supply store. And if you remember the letter set and all of that. Yeah. I sold all that shit. But it was one of the best jobs because they brought in sales training people for us. And those sales techniques, natural sales, not salesy sales, have lasted my entire life, and especially from when I owned the yoga studio. And so I could easily sell passes, I could easily build memberships, but that sales training from probably when I was 17, 18 years old is just embedded in me. And now I share that with other studios.
It's hugely important. And it's easy to make that connection when you're opening a studio and you're self-employed and you're running a business. As a product manager, your job is to sell new ideas to people like me every day, right? What am I going to spend my dollars on that's going to maximize the investment for the business, solve the most critical problems for our customers? And the product managers need to sell that. It's a sales job. Engineering, here's the approach I want to take. That's selling. The same thing. The engineering teams need to walk through the approach, why it's the right approach, and the right how, if you will. That's all communication and sales. Yeah. Everything is sales.
It is. And I have to say, in general, the yoga world is very hesitant to the sales side of things because, most yoga teachers, I've said this on many episodes, but most yoga teachers don't go into it to run a business, which is, I think, different to a lot of fitness businesses, like F45 type of thing, but yoga teachers go in it to serve. And then they realize, holy shit, I got to pay the bills here. And then it becomes a business, right? And so that's what I spend a lot of time with studios, getting them to relearn the business side of things, or if they're just starting up, how not to make the mistakes that I went through.
Yeah, I wish if someone asked me one day, what would you could go back and tell your younger self something and do something differently, what would it be? And I was like, absolutely nothing. Like I appreciate all the scar tissue. I really do. It's all those mistakes. In fact, I have this, I think my kids got this for me. I have a metal stand on my desk, and it's got this magnet with like a wrecking ball that spins around. There's like 9 categories, and it lands on, essentially how you're making decisions. And engraved in the front, it says, "Bad decisions make good stories." Yeah. That is, it's literally.
Hopefully you learn from them, right?
You absolutely do, and I think the thing is the thing I would tell a new business owner always is, trust your gut.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, trust your gut. Like
And that's hard to make people understand that. That's a hard one it's hard to put into words.
It's simple.
Yeah.
But it takes courage and trust in yourself, which is really interesting. That some people don't trust themselves, and it's one of the hardest things about starting a new business is just believing your gut and saying, okay. And by the way, if you're wrong, like if you make a decision, they come and talk, they talk to Michael and you set him straight on the right way to do it, it's okay, right? You say, okay, I learned a lesson here. It's not detrimental. And you recover and you do that quickly, but you have to trust your gut when you're making those decisions, for sure.
I had, when I sold my studio and then, after that I was doing consulting, and, when you're first starting, it's, hard going, trying to get something. And I had a few people kind of questioning me on that, but there was something in me that knew, and I felt it, that everything, my marketing, my sales, my graphics, running a yoga studio, setting up for virtual. It's like, you just feel that I'm meant to be doing this right now. And it's hard to put that into words, but it's a feeling that you just have to trust, even through the hard times, that you're on the right path. But I do want to come back to what you just mentioned there, and also in your bio, which I think it's important that's in your bio, about where you say part of your DNA includes ensuring his teams have a learning mindset and encouraged to fail and learn fast. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that's really fascinating. And how often can you fail? So
it's interesting. It's a really good question, and there's no magic answer, and it really depends on the individual and the team and honestly the situation, because sometimes there's just not enough room for extreme failure, and sometimes there is, and so I'll use the example I have from my startup before Mindbody. We were going after one of the largest studios in the world, and media entertainment studios, like film, TV production, and we were launching a platform that had to scale across essentially every country in the world, and the team was like, we're not ready. I was like, yeah, but there's not a single test in the world that you're going to be able to build that's going to test for this. And I took that and I set the expectation with that customer and said, we're probably not ready, but we're probably never going to be ready, but we're going to turn this thing on, and we're committed to pivoting and doing whatever we need to do as we learn through running this in production with you. And thankfully they were willing to do that. And so, and keep in mind, this is a team of about 8 people. It wasn't a team of 700. And we flipped the switch, and it exploded. I mean, literally exploded. The whole thing blew up. And but they stayed engaged for hours on end for multiple days. And at the end of 7 days, we learned 100 new things about our platform we would have never learned through any kind of testing cycles. And they were able to stabilize it, make some changes where we needed critical changes, and get it to a place where the customers are incredibly happy in about 10 days. And so that's a really easy example where technology allows you to do that today. You can move really, really fast. Things don't take weeks and weeks to do anymore. They take hours in a lot of cases. The other example is virtual wellness at Mindbody. We did not have a virtual wellness strategy when I got to Mindbody. It was on our 2022 timeframe, I think, if I remember right. COVID hit. All of our studios shut down, and we had to have something. And we literally plucked six or seven people from various teams. I happened to be super lucky, Michael, that we had an architect that used to work for CBS and had media experience. I had all my connections at AWS that I used at my prior company for our platform. and I had those connections that picked up the phone immediately and were willing to help. And we ended up building an on-demand media platform for our customers in about 8 or 9 days.
It was super quick.
It was insanity. Like, and the whole time the team was like, we don't know if we got it right, so just do it. Now, if it's wrong, we'll figure it out. They probably shifted about 18 to 20 times in the first month on some of the choices we made. And that's the thing that's really important, is you have to empower. When I say empower the teams to learn, you're going to learn so much more by just doing it versus reading about it. And when they did it, and they're like, oh, this didn't work like we thought it was going to work. Okay, what was your second best option? Let's try that. And we would try 3 solutions in a day.
Just throwing it at the wall and seeing which one.
because it's quick to build, and it's in that scenario where it was a net new standalone thing. We didn't have any deep dependencies across the rest of the Mindbody software. We had the flexibility to do that, and so it was wide open learning. Probably, I think if you talk to that team, probably the most fun and energy those folks have ever had in their career is what I've been told when I've talked to them, to the point where I couldn't get them to stop working on the weekends. I was to the point where I'm going to disconnect your network access. You have to stop working. You have to take you have to take a weekend off. And so that's another case where it's wide open. And then there's other cases where it has to be a bit more controlled. We can't crash Mindbody, right? And so our cloud migration is a great example where there isn't a lot of room for failure there. It has to run. When we moved everything into the cloud of Mindbody,
okay,
right? We just completed our cloud migration.
Yeah, that's a huge.
It's huge, and as much as I'd love to go jumping down the rabbit hole and learn some new technology along the way, the only option we had is that it's up, it is running, and it is performant, because every one of our customers relies on it. And that's a case where you don't have that kind of flexibility. You have to be more disciplined. You have to pick really key pieces where you have the opportunity to learn and grow along the way without disrupting the end game plan, which is get in the cloud and have a better resiliency than we had today. And so 2 different scenarios there, but you can find the spots, even in the toughest, tightest situation. You can find spots to learn.
Yeah, we've spoken about this before on some of our meetings, and where I had concerns because over the last 2 years, it's almost seemed as soon as COVID hit, a million other software companies, smaller ones, have come out of the woodwork, and there's a ton of them now. I said something about they're, because you guys are the big guy, but they're nimble. They're able to react very, very quickly. And you said something that I just thought was amazing, and it was you said, yeah, they're having to add new features, but we're looking to simplify and reduce features. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because Mindbody it's become a juggernaut, right? And as you purchase new companies and new integrations, it feels a little bit like it's been added on. And now you have a clear plan of how to simplify that.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things as a company, and it comes with the territory where you're a leader, first to the market, and Mindbody was indeed first to market 20 years ago or so. And we've naturally acquired, I don't even know the total number of acquisitions we've done. I think it's well north of 20 over the years. And when you look at all of our data, feature set is not our gap. It really isn't. And in fact, we've built features that were really important 5-6 years ago. They aren't relevant anymore. Right. And they're used, but it's not the best way to do it. And so when you think about the new players that are coming in, they're solving very niche experiences, and they're solving them really, really well. In a lot of cases, we have the breadth that they don't have, and it's one of the reasons we still win a lot. I mean, we are the leader in the space, but we have a significant opportunity to simplify, reduce the feature sets, and what I like to think of is getting you back to running your business and talking to your clients versus running our software. And today with AI and machine learning, there's a lot of things tasks we can take out of the system that used to be human driven 5 years ago that don't need to be human driven anymore. Yeah. The easiest example, and I can't wait to launch this with our product and get into this experience, is around the checkout experience and the buy experience, where it was essentially tied to screens. Everything was on a screen. And today it's not. Today it's SMS, it's push notification. Mm-hmm. You roll up to your studio and, you're here. Would you like a bottle of water? And you simply respond yes on your phone, and your water's paid for and waiting for you. You say, oh wow, because you know our software, right? And you're thinking of the screen. But this is just
an ugly old checkout screen. Yeah.
Well, but and so again, it was purpose built when it was built. But now the expectation of the consumer and the expectation of the business owner and the people actually managing in location is different. It was, I think of my daughter who's 16, and let's say she gets her first job, and let's say she goes and she's going to work at a yoga studio as a front end staff. She would not expect to have to go into a checkout screen and go through 5 or 10 clicks and, think of type in a number. For her, it's no, like, touch the thing with your phone and boom, it works, right? And so you have to adapt for that, and that's what we're doing. And so the good news is it simplifies everything. It really does simplify things, but there's a change factor, and we can't underestimate that. It's one of the most important things about building product like this and transforming products, is we've spent 20 years training you how to check somebody out with our software. And so there's a bit of deprogramming that has to happen as we launch new experiences. By the way, it's the hardest, but it's the most enjoyable part of building product. I remember, and there's so many examples when you fundamentally change a product, like we're doing with Mindbody. When you see that click with a customer the first time, and they're like, wait a minute, the way I was doing it, oh my God, I can't believe I was doing it like that for so long. And you'll see them well up with tears. I mean, it's like, oh my God, this is so much better. And that's what we're doing. That's 100%.
I'm going to give an example of one of those that's important to me right now that I know that is coming, and that is the new Mindbody Insights. And I just picked up a fantastic new client, a studio in Washington, and I actually met her in the elevator at the Mindbody Bold conference. It was my best connection. But I just did a deep dive of KPIs on her business, and it took me 6 hours.
Yeah.
To do a thorough deep dive. So I had to have a very, very great picture of her business. So, the new Mindbody Insights to not have to run those KPIs in a spreadsheet is, I think, one of the
incredible.
And I think it's one of the best things that you can give a business is the data. And I think Mindbody's known for the data as the differentiator, and the fact that you're going to make that more accessible, I think is going to help so many businesses.
Well, and more intelligent. And that's the other thing there. And you're spot on, Michael. When you look across the horizon of people in the space, we are by far, we have the most data. We have essentially everything you could ever want. It's just hard. It's hard to compile. And so we've made it hard to compile. With insights, it becomes incredibly easy, and beyond easy, it becomes actually predictable. And what you're going to see in insights is the machine learning piece, which automates a lot of the compiling, but then the AI that actually understands what you're looking at. And then it starts giving you relevant data based on what they know you're interested in. Mm-hmm. And when you think about the new homepage, and this is where it gets, in my mind, and I say this, there's a couple of principles I live with. One is progressive disclosure, which is this notion of what we do today is we give you a lot of data. and we say, hey, business owner, go figure it out.
Yeah.
What I want to do is say, we've already figured it out. Here's the 5 pieces of information you need to know to make the decision you're trying to make. If you want more, you can come down into the weeds a little bit and look at it. We're not going to take that away, but ideally, we should be able to get you to a place where you can make decisions fast without having to do the analytical side of the data. The other piece is understanding the context of the user. And when you look at the homepage, and you've seen the concepts, and it's in alpha right now, it's pretty interesting because you have a staff, you have an owner, you could have a franchise, corp. They all have different needs and views.
Yeah.
And today it's kind of all the same. And so this is where the AI comes in, and AI is so powerful for us. Again, it's going to know if I'm a front staff, the context of the information I need and what I care about when I get to the location at 7 a.m. to open up is very different than the owner. And those views are going to be dynamic based on those needs. And the thing is, we're fortunate. We have 40,000+ customers that we have all the data. We know what they're actually looking at every single day. We know what's relevant. It's helping us and informing us on what is the right data to put in front of our users at the right point in time. And so I would say the big thing for me with the new Mindbody experience is it's going to be intelligent. It's going to have a layer of intelligence we've never had before, which should move people to judgment-based decisions versus task-based work, which is what we're shooting for.
And folks, the new Mindbody experience, you can drag and drop classes.
It's so funny how the little things make you so happy. It's the other thing that's important about it, and it gets lost sometimes, is and this gets to just building a great product, is we are building it from the ground up. And so we're building with microservices. And so when new things do need to happen, and I've said this, I think already twice on this cast, right? Things are changing very, very fast, and we need to be able to be flexible in what we go after. And if there's something we need to go build that we didn't see a year ago that just comes into the market, we need to be able to do that and do it really, really quickly. The new technology and architecture will allow us to do that. And you're already seeing, like, we're building components, things that 2 years ago would have taken a year.
You'll be able to
building them in
Swift now, and Can we touch base on some of those things, that the new things? Maybe get a paragraph of thoughts. So recently, I mean, this seems like a small thing, but it's a big thing. But you're building in ability to do subs within Mindbody, substitute teachers.
Yeah. So there's it's the little things, right? It's when you think about the pain, and for me, it always comes back to pain, Michael. And I try to go visit a customer every other week if I can, at least once a month. And I spend the whole day there, watching them use our software, watching them interact with customers and clients. And one of the first things I noticed was the impact of someone calling in and not being able to make it to work is a cascading mess, and it disrupts the entire day to a point where people are running around trying to figure out what they're going to do. They're communicating with clients because they don't know they're going to have a class shed. The owner's on the phone trying to track down someone to potentially sub in.
Or the owner has to sub in.
The owner has to sub in. No. But it's this cascading effect of impact. And when you think about all the things we could build, what you're shooting for is a great product, is high impact. This was a little thing. It really is a little thing, but it allows when someone calls in, essentially a text message to every instructor you have. Hey, does anybody want to pick this class up? Michael's out sick today. They can say yes. The system's updated. Everybody gets a confirmation email and message. And nobody's disrupted, and that's great. And it's low touch. We didn't have to do I don't know that there's very many new screens in the product. I think most of it's through SMS and push notifications. That's what you're trying to shoot for. Same thing with progress tracking.
Yeah.
We're doing the same thing with progress tracking. It's, what do you want to do? I want to track my progress. Okay. Well, today it's usually done on paper or a whiteboard, and or not done at all. And people think of things like CrossFit and workout of the day and all that fun stuff. Great, but yoga is a really good example. Like I'm not a yoga guy. I've done yoga once. I was in, I think, Jamaica with one of my hippie friends who does yoga, and he's like, "You got to come out to the beach. We're going to do yoga on the beach." And I think everybody there thought we were a cult and he was our leader. But I did yoga in Jamaica, and I'm a big guy. I'm 6'2", and I'm not going to tell you my weight, but beyond my weight limit. And it never clicked for me. Here's the thing. I'm also a metrics driven person. And it's one of the reasons I'm addicted to my Peloton, right? I know my performance. I know I beat my last place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for yoga, though, think about this. Like, if you're new to yoga, what is the progress that you're making? Where should I be in week 1, week 2, week 5, week 12, month 6? How should my flexibility be growing? How many moves should I know and understand? That's important from a consumer's perspective. And right now, as I've talked to some yoga instructors, right now it's a one-on-one conversation that isn't scalable. At least not with a studio that wants to grow beyond a couple hundred members.
Yeah.
It becomes unscalable. And so that's, another simple problem we can solve, which will drive the behavior our customers want, which is people coming to the studio more often, being committed to their wellness. That's what we're trying to drive, commitment to wellness. And I think it's a big part of it. Yeah. Again, tiny little thing. It's tiny.
Well, and then the other one, let's talk a little bit about the artificial intelligence.
It's everywhere.
It's
everywhere.
Messenger.ai. I mean, so I think this, let's talk about yoga studios. So most yoga studios, mom and pop type of yoga studios, let's say, usually finish classes by 11 or 12 and then close the doors until 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, right? So there's usually, in those type of situations, the doors are not always open, or it's one space, and so the door gets locked when class starts. And so those phone calls happen, and missed phone calls, missed emails, and all that kind of stuff. So I think you guys have really knocked it out of the park on Messenger.ai.
It's incredible. I mean, the first version of it, with the knowledge base and just answering questions around your business, was great. The latest version, where they're actually allowing you to book, you're able to we're taking payment through Messenger AI. It's fully automated. The early, I won't get the numbers right, so don't quote me on the numbers here, but it's several hundred to several $1,000s a month in capture business that was dropping out of the funnel. Sunil has a really good example of his own experience where he's looking, and he's in a town, he's somewhere he wants to take a class. He Googles, he tries to call. If there's no answer, he moves to the next one. And that's what most new people are doing. It's very rare that they're going to call you back. They're going to find someone else. It's a hyper competitive market. There's usually multiple studios within 5 or 10 minutes of each other. And it's either they're being recommended or referred by a friend that takes the class, or they're looking for the first time. And those first time users, if you capture 25%, you're probably doing pretty good.
And I think, especially with first-time users, there's an intimidation factor that kind of happens a lot of the time. Especially, I noticed that with new yoga students. I was always like, the hardest step is getting them through the front door. That's the hardest step. I was always like, once they've stepped through, I'll take care of it from there, right? But it is, so, they're not answering the phone or the emails or the delay or not getting back. I think taking that out is magic.
Well, and think about it as an experience. And we have a customer in Belgium that's doing this. They get the message, great. Oh, you're new. Awesome. welcome. We've got you booked. And then the follow-up message is, oh, hey, here's a link to an on-demand video that walks you through the basics of yoga. You can watch before you come to class to get you more comfortable with the class. By the way, we've got 5 other newbies in the class with you today. It's going to be fantastic. It's little things like that, right?
Yeah. Or even a visual of what they're going to walk into. That unknown. The unknown is scary for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was really scary for me.
Yeah, so come on. Tell me about. So, am I understanding that you've had one yoga experience?
Maybe 2. I've had maybe 2.
Do tell.
No. I think the second one was a hot yoga class, and I wore the wrong clothes, and I was like a drenched pig when I was done. It was terrible. It was just embarrassing enough to make me never want to go back.
Have you tried virtual yoga?
I haven't. And I'm making excuses now. So before this podcast is over, I'm going to be doing yoga. I can already tell. I have a really bad knee, and so flexible movements are hard for me. And so I just haven't done it. But now I can already tell myself I'm doing it. I'm going to have to do it. So I'll promise to come back and give you a recap of my yoga class.
Specific, very successful class, but a specific yoga for tight men. And let me tell you, that's one of my most popular classes.
Oh, perfect. Just what I need.
The other thing I just want to touch on is the other thing that you added in very quickly was vaccination status into Mindbody. And I mean, I don't want to get into the politics of this. I mean, it just opens up a can of worms. There's no middle ground on this at all. But in where I am in Vancouver, Canada, and I'm seeing it's popping up more. It's mandatory to have vaccination, double vaccination.
Yeah.
So, and I remember at first the studio that I still teach from, my old studio that I sold, they started trying to figure out some of the Mindbody icons to add in themselves, right? So now I'm seeing a little bit of a mixture of icons on there, but the fact that you came out with that quickly for the people that needed that is great.
Yeah, I think there's just generally an opportunity where your medical preferences beyond just vaccination are going to become more and more important. And we were talking earlier, we're seeing a lot of growth in recovery, and understanding, like, we all have pre-existing conditions, and frankly, as you age, the list seems to grow longer and longer. But that's a real part of it, and understanding that about the clients, understanding even in a yoga class, if I'm in yoga and I happen to be taking cryotherapy, or I'm going to physical therapy for X, Y, and Z, those are really important things to understand about the client. It could help you tailor a program around that. And for me, it's going to be interesting as we get into updating our client profile experiences that we're doing right now, is how does that tie back in? How comfortable will the consumer be with that information? I think, to your point, the vaccination thing is just over politicized, and it's a red hot button. But there's a lot beyond vaccination status. When you think about nutrition, you think about blood type, you think about literally, again, it gets back to goals and tracking. I'll share with you, like, I had an appointment this morning with my doctor. I'm 48, and like, cholesterol is creeping up on me, and she's like, "Oh, what are you going to do?" And I'm like, I'm not going to take a pill. I'm not going to the statin world. So what are my options? And we put a plan together. Part of that is exercising cardiovascular. Part of it is diet. Part of it is stress. I mean, stress plays an incredible part in overall wellness. And so that information can be critical for a business that's focused on someone's wellness, even though it may not seem directly related to yoga. knowing that total client picture could be incredibly helpful
Yeah,
in that
and I
relationship.
do see like data is everything right now, and I see even on the Apple phone in the health app, we don't have it connected in Canada here, but I see when in the States here that you can connect that to with the place you go get your blood tests and everything, so you have all that data. I
Yeah.
know. I said before, I've been a Mac fan forever. And so the Apple Watch, I've closed my rings on my watch every single day since the beginning of January this year. Now, part of it is because I had heart surgery last year, speaking of cholesterol, but that data is helping me in my recovery after having a stent put in. I wasn't allowed to get my heart rate over a certain amount for almost a year. So having that in front of me, having it on my Apple Fitness on my TV while I'm on my bike in my bedroom, it gave me that data that, okay, I got to stop here. So I completely agree that is going to become, I think it's going to empower the individual more.
I 100% agree. 100% agree. And I think the more our customers know about their customers, the better we can tailor the solutions that we give them.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And we also talked about mental health. It's one of those things where I didn't connect that dot until recently. And I, this, I'll talk about Peloton again only because it's my primary mode of exercise right now. But I can tell you, if I don't get my ride in, and I do about 20 miles, a day. I'm pretty aggressive with it. I don't feel the same. I can see the stress levels coming up. I can see the anxiety coming back. I don't sleep as well. There's no question fitness is directly tied to mental health. And we have to find a way to connect the results of that as well. I don't know how, frankly, yet, Michael. I'm just starting to think about it. But that to me is another thing that eventually has to come full circle in our world. And we need to be able to relate the benefit of what our customers are bringing to their consumers back to that mental health aspect, and frankly be able to measure that. And it's going to sound very capitalistic, but get a little credit for it, because it's one of the most critical benefits that we provide with our customers, for sure.
Yeah. And we mentioned just before we started recording that how great it is now that one of the good things about COVID is that mental health we're able to have that conversation now without stigma around it. And so I think that's amazing. Just kind of, you've got the new Mindbody experience coming up. I'd love to, if you can just kind of tell me what you're seeing in the world. You get a world view of what's going on with all your data and what have you. So, it feels like it's different everywhere right now, but it feels like we're being able to figure out how to manage this and how to reopen, and, capacity is starting to increase a little bit. Can you, you said before that, Mindbody's had some great months over the last little while. So can you sort of, where are we going? What's going on right now that you're seeing?
I mean, it's interesting. You have kind of the false stops of the pandemic, which had happened, which I think surprised a lot of folks. And so it's kind of this heart rate monitor is what it looks like every once in a while. And depending on the region, some regions are impacted a lot more sporadically than others. In places like APAC, where they take a pretty quick, decisive action, they'll open and they'll close, open and close, where EMEA is kind of long and drawn out. At the end of the day, though, there's no question people are coming back. Every single one of our consumer surveys shows that this is even more important for the consumers out there today. We're seeing a lot of rapid growth. A lot of our customers are expanding right now. And some customers, particularly on the side of wellness, like med spas, infrared saunas, cryo, who were able to stay open through COVID as an essential service, they've expanded. And what you're seeing is people are spending more money on themselves. And we're spending less money. I'm going to get the number wrong, and I hate not having the number. I meant to write it down this morning, but I saw the number this morning. Somewhere in the 50 to 60 billion range is what consumers are saving just by not commuting to work every day.
Yeah.
And so imagine, I mean, you're in Los Angeles here, right? Like,
3 hours.
It's well, and you're talking about $800 to $1,000 a month in fuel in your car. Even your insurance rates on your vehicle are reduced now because you're not driving. You can call your insurance company and they'll reduce your rates by 20 or 30% in a lot of cases. So when you think about that, disposable income there's a place it's going to shift to. And I suspect some of it shifted to alcohol during COVID, but eventually that's going to trickle off. And I would expect it to go into wellness and health and fitness. And it looks like a lot of the world is going to stay remote from a work perspective. That's another opportunity to bring that shift of where we're not spending on commuting and office and even lunch. When you think about that, I was thinking back a couple of weeks ago when I would go into Pasadena every day for work. I was probably spending $300 a month easy just on lunch, and not doing that anymore. And so that's going to drop opportunity for our businesses, and people are concerned about health and wellness. There's no question they are. And there's great options and choices with virtual. And I think that's the other thing. We are going to see a hybrid approach going forward.
Absolutely.
There's no question. And for our businesses, and I've said this to a couple of customers, we've had a pretty consistent demographic with our customer base for a while. It's, that mid to late 40s into the 50s, affluent, generally female customer. That's a big part of our base. There's opportunity here to go broader with the demographic as well. My daughter, who's 16, does a virtual workout every single morning. Every morning she does it. And she's committed to it.
Is she
probably not the person.
X program?
I can't tell you what she's using. But she is likely never going to go to a studio though.
Yeah, interesting.
And so there's an opportunity for our customers to get after that consumer that you never thought of before. And it's different. It's not the same as marketing to the community to bring them into the studio. It's just not the same. And we have to help them do that.
Yeah, I taught a virtual core yoga class earlier on, and one of the students stayed on afterwards just saying how much she appreciated it because she works till 5 a.m. I think she's a nurse. And so she said for her to be able to roll out of bed and flick the computer on at 11 o'clock. And she said just the mental difference it makes to her to be able to get that in with such little effort in her day. And that's what's working for. She still goes to a yoga studio on the weekends and she wants that in-studio feeling. But she said on those days where she's doing the overnight shifts, it's just magic for her.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of stability in our on-demand, which gives you that flexibility. I think there's also there's a lot of opportunity for instruction where it's different. And I know a lot of our customers were doing live classes and streaming live classes with folks in the studio and online. And so I think for us, there's just a good opportunity to maximize the instruction experience. I'm careful not to say quality there, Michael, because it's not. It's just different, though.
Yeah, I get that because I'm a different instructor to a lot of the other instructors out there. I'm a teacher that watches my students, so I'm at the computer 70% of the time, most of the time, and having that relationship with them, right? And so I think that's where the magic is, where you still get that quality instruction instead of a YouTube type experience.
Yeah, the quality instruction, and it is different. Engaging someone in person and engaging someone online are two different scenarios.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. This is round three on the Peloton reference, but I do think it's one of the things they've done incredibly well. I ride with 80 people,
Yeah,
that I've never met before. Literally never. I've never met any of them before.
yeah,
I want to. I'm dying to go to New York and ride in the studio with everybody. But there's a community aspect that they've built.
yeah,
And it's not that the studio built it. What's interesting, it was organic with the writers, and they enabled it.
yeah.
And their instructors empowered it. But the community itself is driven and led by the writers. That's incredibly powerful, and it's one of those things. I'm just kind of rolling around in my brain, trying to think, how can we do this with Mindbody and our customer base? Because when you can build that community that has no walls and no lines across,
All about community.
I mean, I ride with people in Russia, I ride with people in Australia, I ride with people all over the US. And, you know, sometimes I'm riding at 5 a.m. in the morning, sometimes I'm riding at 10 p.m. at night, but
Yeah.
we generally ride 3 days a week together as a group. And we've got to be able to do that. And that will bring people into that virtual experience. Because that's ultimately, I mean, we're human beings. Like, it's, you know, every once in a while there's people that don't want community, but I don't meet very many of them. It's
community.
It's what you want to do.
It's why I have busy classes, is because I'm on there 10 minutes, 15 minutes before, chit-chatting, you know, seeing where they're in their vacation homes. It's that relationship. The same thing when they walk through the door at the studio. I welcome every single person by name when they come in. It's that relationship thing.
100%.
Community is where it is at. That's the profit building, is building community.
I'm 100% there.
I would just want to touch on why Mindbody. If someone was starting their business, and why would you know, Mindbody's not the cheapest out there compared to, you know, some of the newer ones that have come out. But why would somebody choose Mindbody?
It's a really, really good question. And the answer is, for me, is because we're committed to this movement. It really is the number one reason for me. I could tell you that we have better software. I could tell you that we have more features. I could tell you that we're investing, you know, $80+ million in R&D. All true, by the way. At the end of the day, it's because our team is committed. And if you ask somebody at Mindbody, what do you do? I work for a wellness company. Most people don't say I work for a software company.
Right.
It's I work for a wellness company. They want to improve lives of our consumers and our customers. That's what they want to do. It's no surprise when Mindbody was open. I remember my first week at Mindbody. I walked on campus, and it's like 10 o'clock, and there's a yoga class going on in one corner. There's a HIIT class going on in the other corner. Like, there's a healthy cafe on the campus. People are eating well. There's this nutrition. We believe in this. Like, we want to do this. We want everybody to be successful, to essentially change the world. It's in our mission statement. We want to spread this around the world. Software just happens to be the medium we use to do it. And so, for me, that's the number one reason to think about Mindbody and choose Mindbody.
I love that.
We'll get all the stuff right. We'll get the features right. We'll improve the product. We're going to do all that stuff.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap this up with 3 questions, something that people don't know about you. And I want to lead you on to something you've already told me.
No, I was thinking about this. There's a lot to unpack there, but
I think you've got a book in the making. Some of the stuff you told me.
When I left college, I followed and traveled around the Grateful Dead for a year.
For a whole year.
For a whole year.
Jumping on plane.
Roundabout year. I think I lost track of time during that period, but yes, that's. And again, I say I don't ever regret anything. made a ton of mistakes in my life. That wasn't one of them, by the way. But
that was you took a whole year off to just follow the Grateful Dead. Yeah.
I don't think I saw my mom for almost 15 months. And then I bumped into her in a local pub in Ohio. And she didn't recognize me, but that was, yeah. Yeah. I still go. I still go to shows. I'm going to the Dead show Halloween night this year.
Oh, do you? Awesome! I love
it.
Yeah. Favorite app or website on a business level that you would use sort of daily?
Business, Slack, easily Slack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For team.
Yeah. It's in the way things work today. Like I can with a simple Slack message, I can reach anybody in the company and get a response within 30 seconds. I think sometimes we can overuse it and it replaces email, but there's some things emails are great for. Yeah. But 90% of your day now is small
quick questions,
interactions. Yeah. So Slack is amazing.
And favorite personal website or app that you would use on a.
So I am
TikTok.
No. Oh God, no. I'm looking at my phone. So it's a toss up for me, and part of it is just the nature of my car. So my Tesla app is fantastic.
Okay.
It's fantastic. But beyond that, Spotify, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I was just looking at my phone. Of all the apps I have on my phone, I rarely use any of them. I use Spotify every day.
And Grateful Dead is like bookmarked in there.
It is, but I'll tell you, my most recent playlist, I have Apocalypse Now soundtrack. I don't know if you've listened to the Apocalypse Now soundtrack. It's fantastic. I've got the Smart List podcast, which is
they just moved to subscription base though.
Did they?
Yeah. Now you have to wait a couple of weeks to get there.
I do have to wait. So, but there's no better way to start your Monday than listen to Jason.
It is fantastic.
Yeah, and then I got Bob Marley, Legend of Bob Marley, I listened to over the weekend, and Aretha Franklin. It was the other most recent. Yeah, there you go.
Check out the new Coldplay. That's what I've been listening to this last week. The new Coldplay.
I didn't know there was a new album. I'll have to check it out. I'm fortunate. My kids all listen to 70s rock, so I don't get new music coming in from the kids, unfortunately. Although I was told that Adele has a new song that I should listen to.
She just came out.
My daughter's like, she's got a great song. It's just always depressing with her.
John, I want to thank you so much for spending this hour with me. I really appreciate. I know you've got
this is fantastic.
A busy schedule and what have you. But I really appreciate you taking the time to educate our listeners.
I appreciate it. This was super fun. I would love to do this again.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, John.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
Bye. This is Yoga Biz Camp. This is my new by invite only dedicated space to support yoga businesses. It's like Facebook but without all the noise and clutter. Here you will find all my resources, including free monthly fireside chat business question and answer time with myself, and along with all of my different communities from studios to solos to the inner circle. Here you'll find guest interviews with leaders in our industry, and as well as all of my free resources, all in one dedicated space. If you're ready to become the next Yoga Biz champ and get private invite into my free community support space, go to yogabizcamp.com, click on Yoga Biz Camp, and I will see you on the inside. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on our podcast. It really helps us out a lot. Thanks a million.